Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. It's good to see everyone. This is Star Ravenhawk, and welcome to the Magical Witchy World TV. And my partner in crime, Rhonda, has not made it back yet because she's away at an event. So we will miss her tonight. But on with the show with our guest that we have coming in tonight. Hold on one second.
It's a magical, witchy world. It's a magical, witchy world.
Hi, everyone. We welcome our guest, Gus DiZerega, to the show tonight.
Hi, Star.
Hi, nice to see you. It's great having you here tonight. And I'm going to be doing all the parts that Rhonda normally do, as well as mine. So I will be telling you all about Gus and his pretty much his bio for you guys to hear what he's all about. So Gus DiZerega is a retired political scientist, PhD from Berkeley, now working as an independent scholar. For as many years, he has been deeply involved in neo-pagan spirituality. He is a third-degree Gardnerian elder in Wicca and worked 6 years with a Brazilian African diasporic Buddhist healing center in Berkeley, California. He describes those years were as challenging as writing a dissertation, though he never had to write anything. He has since conducted healing circles and given workshops on basic energy healing in California, Illinois, Michigan, and Washington. And he has been involved in interfaith work, including giving a plenary talk at the 2023 Parliament of World Religions. DiZerega has written extensively on spirituality, liberalism, democratic theory, and environmental theory. His books of interest to this group are God is Dead, Long Live the Gods, The Case for Polytheism in 2020. There's Fault Lines, the 60s, The Culture War and the Return of the Divine Feminine in 2013. Beyond the Burning Times, A Pagan and Christian in Dialogue with co-author Philip Johnson in 2007. Pagans and Christians, The Personal Spiritual Experience in 2001. He has also published in a wide variety of pagan and spiritual journals, both print and online, including Green Egg. I remember that one. Pomegranate, Wiccan Read, Pagan Currents, Witches and Pagans, The Interfaith Observer, Sacred Cosmos, Pathos, and many chapters in anthologies. DiZerega's social scientific work has been published in the Review of Politics, the Western Political Quarterly, Cosmos and Taxes, and a whole slew more. You can always check out his website, which we're going to be slewing by for you to see what all the amazing plethora of things that he's written for. So again, welcome and happy to have you here tonight with us. We are going to, yeah.
So thank you for inviting me.
No problem. It's a pleasure. We love having you here. And you've been writing for the Green Egg is something that not many people know about. That was a long time ago, so it's really wonderful to hear that you were part of that as well. Okay. We've been looking forward to this conversation with you. So one of the first things we always ask everyone, because one of the things that the show is all about is showing and exposing people to the fact that we are a pagans or paganism or whatever you want, or the magical community is very diverse in what they are, who they are, and what type of person they are. Within that magical realm. So one of the things we've noticed that people have done over the years is once they start, they consider themselves a particular thing that they call themselves, nothing that anyone identifies you as, but what you identify yourself as at the beginning. And then they kind of do this arc journey of where they call themselves now. And then they say, this is what I am now. So can you take us through that little arc of what you began with, the name that you called yourself, and what you're calling yourself now, that kind of thing, or identify as?
The term pagan is controversial in some quarters because it has a complicated history.
Yeah.
And I still think there's no better term for this broad range of what I would call people who engage with an enchanted world um, and work with the realm of spirit, not to find enlightenment, but to learn how to live in greater harmony with everything around us.
Right, right.
Such,
Absolutely.
that's my sort of generic term. That
Okay.
that being said, I'm Wiccan. That
Okay.
was my first um, identity in terms of training and experience. Um, so you could say, yes, I'm a witch, but that again is a term that has so many different kinds of meanings um, that, you know, for to avoid misunderstandings, I say Wiccan. Uh,
Okay.
that said, um, my life took on many unusual twists and turns, and so I've had um, very deep experience in the Afro-Brazilian diasporic tradition,
Mm.
primarily Umbanda, but also others.
Right.
Um, find myself completely at home when I visited New Orleans years ago and was invited to be a guest at Sally Glassman's Voodoo
Ah,
group.
okay.
It was so nice that I thought, well, if I lived in New Orleans, I would look into this.
Right, right.
A
That's
vegetarian, so no chicken needed to worry. And the
okay.
and I've had some experience with other traditions.
Right,
So
right.
I regard I like the sort of broad term pagan is I think um, very good, and then in interfaith work um, where pagan is usually considered much more controversial because you have a lot of indigenous peoples who were taught that pagan is a bad term and they don't use it to describe themselves. And so the term earth religions or earth centered religions
Mm.
or earth centered spirituality, meaning we find the sacred in the earth,
Right,
the world around us, as our primary focus.
right.
That too.
Okay. So you, I guess, in a way, you're basically saying that you try to term yourself or call yourself something that will make others feel comfortable around you,
I,
in a sense.
I hope. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. All
and how
right.
pagan,
I am so opposite you with that because I'm like I just feel so set in my way, I guess, because I feel like if other religions could identify themselves and proudly say whatever it is and don't care how anyone takes it, I feel like I can say I'm a witch without blinking an eye, and I really don't care if they're uncomfortable or not because they're certainly not when they say what they are and they're proud of it. So I am very proud of who I am, and I'm not willing to do that. So I'm happy you're willing to do that. I'm not that person.
well, I think the difference between us may be um, because I've often called myself a witch if I'm asked,
Right,
um, is that writing on these things, I work with a bigger palette,
right, right,
and so I'm trying to find a term that is both accurate
right,
and doesn't exclude anybody that I've.
right,
But in terms of what do I do um, in my own personal practice,
right.
I'm a Wiccan, a witch, use either.
Okay.
And as I say in the biography, I'm a third degree Gardnerian witch.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Sounds great. And I'm glad because you're thinking from both points of view as that person that's authoring different works and as that person personally. Um, yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say brought you to the world of Wicca or witchcraft?
Well, I look back on my life, and every now and then, like probably virtually all of us in this broad community,
Mm-hmm.
things happen as you grow up, and as
Right.
But I mostly had come to the conclusion by the time I was in graduate school that, yeah, the world is weird. Nobody knows anything about it. Um, until something becomes really unavoidable, I'm going to stick with the worldview that's I'm most comfortable with, which is
Right, right,
modern. But to finance my dissertation, um, I did it in an unusual way. I financed it as an artist selling artwork
right,
on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. Well, you
mm,
meet people as a street vendor that you normally don't meet on the UC campus.
right.
And one was a good customer, and we were talking, and I said, "Oh, what do you do?" I study magic. And I think, oh, God. I like this guy, and he's another Berkeley loon. But I don't say that because he's a good customer.
Right.
Okay, a year or two pass. I've finished the dissertation. I think I'm going to have a normal life as an academic. Don comes by, and so I say, it doesn't matter if I upset him or not. So I say, do you think you could show me some real magic? Because I wanted to see how he would weasel out of it. Like, you're not right, or the time is not right, or, yada, yada, yada. Instead, he said, yeah, how about tonight? That was the only answer I could not handle. Because the only answer I completely did not think I would ever hear. Anyway, to make there's some intervening details, but I show up at his house, south of the campus. He comes to the door. He's younger than me, but taller, wearing a black robe, carrying his staff, saying, let's go up on the campus. And I say, okay, I sure hope I don't meet anybody I know. And it was 10 o'clock. And that night, he destroyed my worldview.
Change your mind.
Yes. And I write about it in, The Witches and Pagans.
Yeah, I saw something about that. I thought that was cool that he disproved your thoughts on that. That's cool.
Right. And basically, there was this, I'll use the term spook, just to keep it informal, in some bushes. And he said, do you see anything? And I thought, here's a test. I'll give him honest but minimal answers. Yes. Is it between those bushes? Yes. Is it about 3 feet tall? Yes. Is it white? Yes, but I can barely see it. He says, well, let me see what I can do about that. Walks to the center of the circle we were in, leans against his staff. Totally easy to see. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this guy is for real. And at the end of it, I asked him, do you ever teach this stuff? He said, sometimes. I said, will you teach me? He said, yes. My life got much more interesting and much more complicated from that time on.
There you go.
That was
That was your dipping your toes in there and going forward.
and went forward, not knowing what I was going to get into. But what a blessing.
Right, right. Okay. What would you say, from your point of view, not anybody else's point of view, but your own, what would you say being a Wiccan or a witch means to you?
That I have personal relationships with certain spirits that I work with, that my devotion to the Wiccan goddess is 100%, that I have met her, that the Wheel of the Year is sort of the framework that I make sense of in terms of spiritual practice, and that ideally, unfortunately, that's not the case especially since COVID, the coven is the ideal framework because magic is more powerful if it's worked with other people on the same wavelength.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Absolutely. Add your energies to it. Yep.
I can do it on my own, but it's not as powerful, not as effective. And and so and as such, I'm part of a tradition of people passed down by initiation that goes back. Some people will say to the way early parts of time that no evidence that's true. But
No, 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 no. That's back to 1950 is what I would say.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's practices that go well before that. But to say that there's an unbroken line, no.
Yeah. No.
On the other hand, it works.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And so, it's like I call their gods to come, and they do.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
sort of nice.
Okay. So then this is a great segue. So how is magic part of your lifestyle on a daily basis?
In my current life, where I'm basically a retired guy who's working on some books, and Taos, where I live, is very spiritually energetic, but is filled with solitaries. Okay. But starting, say, the first day I moved into my house 10 years ago, first cup of coffee I had, I walked outside and poured some to the mountain, Taos Mountain, and some to the spirits of the yard, and felt nothing, of course. Now, 10 years later, I have done it virtually every day since.
Mm,
It's come alive.
right, right. So
Uh,
it, ritual that becomes consistent pays itself off.
right, ritual that's consistent. Don't be creative, be consistent.
Right,
And because you're building a relationship. And
right,
the spirit world, initially, um, they probably ignore it because all sorts of people do all sorts of things but don't follow through.
right,
And the other that I regard as an error is, oh, you have a whole slew of different deities and what have you that you call on in a ritual. No, you're building a relationship. Uh, a guy involved with Cuban practices gave a really great analogy to it. He said it's sort of like you're having a dinner party. You want the same people over again and again and again to build the kind of relationship that you have, compared with, say, having new people every time.
right.
And it has very practical consequences. My favorite one, um, we had a grasshopper plague a few years ago,
Mm,
and I love to garden, and they were eating it alive. And I finally broke down and bought some pesticide, and then I thought, you don't want to use that. So I got into a meditative place to contact king grasshopper, queen grasshopper, the authority in charge who seemed to be overseeing the grasshoppers. And
right.
I said, look, I know you got to eat. I planted these plants because I like the flowers. I offer you a deal. Don't eat the flowers. You can eat the greens. Don't eat the flowers. I won't use the pesticide. I won't try to kill you. That was 3 or 4 years ago. Never used pesticide. Never try to kill them. And maybe at the tail end of summer, they'll eat some of the flowers because they've eaten so much else. It looks great, all pretty much.
That's awesome.
You have a practical relationship.
Right. Everything.
And I work with spirits when I do healings.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And that's really, at this point, the two areas that I, as a solitary, am most involved with.
Right, right. So what has become really important to you?
Spiritually,
Yeah, or in general. It could because what like you say, our magical and our mundane life kind of blend together. So,
okay.
it could be something that could be magical, but it could also be something just, you know, a bit of combination. It
Well,
depends.
I'm a political scientist by training and skill. I spend a lot of time um, on my Facebook and have a book coming out. It's just been accepted by Palgrave Macmillan called Democracy as a Spontaneous Order, The Tragedy of American Conservatism and Classical Liberalism. So it's sort of semi-highbrow, but
Mm,
not, and it examines how did we get up in the mess we're in now with
right,
a movement that I regard as about as demonic as anything that has ever existed in this society. And
right, right.
demonic,
Understandably. Mm,
yeah, I don't use the term lightly. Um, so I regard that as both serving the earth, serving humanity, and serving spirit, because these guys and occasional gals are against everything I care about at all three levels.
right, right,
Uh, that said, I also um, am going to be helping out in an initiation in a Wiccan tradition in the near future. Um, I'll be, I have attempted several times to see if people want to explore Wicca in a traditional way without much success. Again, Taos is
a lot of solitaries.
a lot of solitaries.
It's everywhere. They're everywhere. Their
Yeah,
solitaries are everywhere.
I
Well,
think,
because your majority of your time you're alone. So, you know, I told people many times, I don't care whether you what you belong to. Eventually, you're alone with your practice. So, but pretty much all basically solitaries that sometimes get together with different groups or temples or whatever to celebrate or raise our energies. So
totally agree.
yeah,
The um, But at this stage, it's almost entirely solitary.
pretty much, yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
think,
that kind of is one of the things that when I was going to ask you about how has anything with the community and you occurred in the recent times. But I know since the pandemic, it's been hard getting a lot of people back to that pre-pandemic times.
yeah,
Um,
combination.
Post-pandemic has been difficult getting things back to norm.
Yeah, I think that there two things go on. One is that I think the pandemic killed or weakened a lot of groups.
Right,
The other is a lot of people, um, as you weaken the groups and people want to learn, more and more they go online. And I think I'm more than just a stick in the mud to say you can only go so far
right,
online. Um, how does energy feel? How do you know that you're feeling it right? It helps if you're working with somebody who's been there before.
right,
There are genuine, depending on how far you want to go, there are dangers involved.
right,
Uh,
right,
and working with somebody who's been there before, it's sort of like the analogy I use when I'm teaching a healing workshop, which I used to do quite a bit and would love to do, is that healing is sort of like hiking. You take a walk in a city park. It's great. You want to go more. Okay, so let's say you're in New York. I want to go into the Catskills. You need to be a little bit more together to handle the Catskills, but they're pretty safe.
right.
Oh, all right. I want to get to the top of Mount Marcy. That's the highest mountain in New York.
Okay.
A whole lot more can go wrong. It's worth it if you do it right. Excuse me. And it adds on to where you want to finally climb Mount Denali Mountain. At every step, you're able to do things you couldn't have done earlier.
Right.
Every step, there are more things that can go wrong. you're not going to die in the Catskills unless you're incredibly stupid or unlucky. It's very easy to die on Denali.
Right.
And so healing is like that. And that's where being part of a community of people who've been there, who've done it, is a really, really important thing if you're going to go deep.
Right.
If you're not going to go deep, my view is a lot of the time what people end up doing is what I call sacred performance art. It's a performance. It's beautiful,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I agree with you.
but it doesn't move the energy.
Right. Right. Hmm. It's
And so
interesting.
I plead with people, work with people, even if it's just with a friend who doesn't know anything more than you do, because you can check with each other. Did you feel that energy? Do you feel when I do this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that gives you confidence to be more aware of more subtle dimensions of what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hmm.
Basically, where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's really interesting. Okay. So, what would you like to see us as witches accomplish? And that's something because that's a question because you kind of said something, kind of where we are right now, and using words like demonic times that we're in, and that you don't use those words lightly, and because the fact that the to actually find out that they're either Wiccans or witches that actually voted for some of this kind of makes you wonder,
Well,
where we are. But what would you like to see us as witches accomplish, if at all possible?
I'd love to see a regrowth of strong covens so that you have a community of support. I'd like to see witches do what I and others have done, being active in interfaith, because that gets people over fear.
Yes,
And
I'm involved with that myself. Yeah.
okay, and we also find that other people have had very powerful spiritual experiences in their past, and those are worthy of respect.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
the world of spirit is bigger than the world of Wicca. We're a part of it. For me, the most important part, but there's more to it. And for
Right.
other people, other parts are more important. Let's emphasize that.
Right.
I would think any, the growth of strong covens and a more accepting view towards other traditions of spirit immunize us as against group movements that focus on anger, hate,
Yeah.
exclusion.
Yeah.
We don't have to directly say Donald Trump is one of the worst human beings of our time, although I happen to believe that, but just the values that motivate us
Right.
are what matters. And you know,
Some sort of a spirit is there that's guiding the hate and
yeah. And
the
if you
hate and the exclusions and othering, and there's something guiding that hate, and it's a pretty powerful thing, whatever it is.
well,
Um,
you bring up, I just just before COVID, my book "Long God Is Dead, Long Live the Gods" came out with Llewellyn, but it couldn't have been worse timed, and Llewellyn finally sort of dropped it, and it's just coming out. It's on Amazon, I believe, although it may not be easily available until a little bit time from now. But uh,
say what it is, because it's backwards on the screen.
that's right. God is dead in the lowercase. Long live the gods. In the
Okay.
and then polytheism for today, second expanded edition. And
Okay.
one of the new chapters are, one is on the nature of polytheism today as a practice.
Right.
The other is on the nature of evil,
Mm.
and it's highly relevant to understanding what is dominating too many people who should know better.
Right.
And it's basically domination for its own sake.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting. That's
So,
interesting in itself up there.
very,
Um, yeah. So what events, sorry, what projects do you have coming up or thinking about?
at this stage of my life, as sort of an elder who's a solitary, um, other than opportunities to do healings on people, which I continue to do when they want, um, is working on my writing. And I'm finishing up the most important book of my life, in my opinion, which is called um, The Great Forgetting and the Road to Awakening. And the Great Forgetting refers to how we as a society, unlike just about all others, completely lost track of the world as in any sense alive. I mean, Japan has Shinto, you know, China has Taoism and stuff, and certain kinds of Confucian practice and Buddhist practice.
Right.
Um, Tibetan Buddhists have a strong shamanic dimension. India has respected Hindu dimension. We have nothing. And why? How did that come about? So the book explores how that came about. And it came about in a lot of little bitty steps that only really consolidated with the Reformation.
Right.
So that's the downer side. But the positive side is that modern science, which started with Protestant assumptions about the nature of the world, but science is mostly its strength. Scientists pursue truth individually. We want to find what's true.
Right.
Science it gets rid of what's not true, but it has no idea what, as a system, what is true. Well, what scientists are discovering is a whole lot of things about the world that fit an animist, enchanted worldview. From work on how plants are conscious and even have memories in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even a single cell is aware, and to a degree, even it has a memory. To what we're discovering about that the material world is actually not material,
Mm.
but forms of energy. And in other words, none of this proves that what we do is true.
Right.
It's compatible with what we do. And as such, the book ends with how, you can take the next step and experience it for yourself.
Mm.
I don't talk about pouring coffee in your yard, although that's a pretty good way. You just have to be very patient.
Right.
I show how you can see for yourself, learn how to see the energy field around your hand.
Right.
And then you can learn to see it around trees. And then you can say, well, when I walk through trees, their fields and my fields interpenetrate. And so the whole notion of an isolated individual is simply not true. That's
Right.
not true. So that is the biggest project. It's almost done. And then I want to go back to some of my more social science.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's enough to keep me busy till I croak.
Yeah, there's a lot there to be dealing with right now with all of that, actually,
Oh, yeah.
because of all, yeah, there's a lot going on there that you can work with. So what events do you have coming up?
But a person, again, as a solitary, um, I did a celebration for the solstice and things like that. But it's all very personal at this point.
Right, right.
I,
Okay.
I find a group. Um, there was a group of people that I went to one of their celebrations, and it was all talk. And it's like, well, no. I,
You have to find the right one that
I was
suits you, and
trying
then
to
you go from there.
plugs into the energy of the time.
Right, right,
That's what I really got from the many years in the Afro Brazilian tradition,
right. Which is quite different. Very, very different to that.
and very different, compatible, um, but you learn there what Wicca, when I got involved, was only learning to scratch the surface.
Right,
To get deep into that. Well, you know, the Africans have had thousands of years to get deep into that.
right.
Native American traditionalists, thousands of years to get deep into it. As you said, we really got rolling in the 50s. There's a lot to learn.
Well, 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 the Gardnerian tradition actually did, yeah, got rolling in the 50s,
And
and
most of
yeah,
the traditions grew out of or in reaction to that.
right, right,
You know, there are fam trads, and I think some are real. Um, but I don't know how deep most of them went, other than through folk magic that survived, you know, sort of like in Italy, or there was an interesting article in the conversation online about fire healers in Breton,
mm,
you know, that could use the energy of their hands and the energies they worked with to do remarkable healings.
right, right.
So
It all depends. Yeah,
these skills survive.
right. Absolutely, passing it down.
The context for making it a practice of other dimensions, like the Sabbats and the moons and stuff like that, they're usually find a way of being at peace with Catholicism. Well, Catholicism more than any other Christian branch, because they have saints, and you can call on the help of saints.
Well, yeah. Well, that part with the Catholicism is because they were smart about it. The Catholics, they kind of
Yeah,
put everything onto the pagan type thing and followed along with it. And instead of the gods and goddesses, they have saints. It's pretty much, they adapted themselves accordingly to make it work,
and it
and
worked a lot
did,
of the time.
and it worked. You
Northern
know, so that's wonderful.
Northern
Okay,
Mexico is very influenced by that.
right, 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 absolutely. Well, it's been Gus. It's been wonderful having you here with us tonight, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk with us and share your knowledge. And Lolan, one of our chat people who loves coming on the show and saying some things. He said it's wonderful having the scientific point of view. So I wanted you to know that he said that.
Thank
Um, but thank you so much for being on the show, and we will be going to a commercial right now, and we want to thank you again.
15 seconds. Down at the bottom is
Oh,
www.dizerega.com.
right, yes.
That's my website. I do a lousy job of keeping it up, but it has a lot of papers on the issues we've talked about, as well as more political sciencey stuff too, and some of my artwork. So
Right,
you know,
right. And anywhere else you want them to reach out to you at, other than what the website scrolling across the screen?
well, my Facebook is open to anybody. You just
Okay,
behave.
absolutely. All
Read,
right, and that's at Gus DiZerega, correct?
yes, Gus DiZerega.
Okay, on Facebook. All right. Thank you again so much, Gus. Hold on, everyone. All right, all right. So it is astrology time, and it's for July coming up because we were not able to do many shows this month in June. So we're going to begin the July monthly horoscope, and we're going to give you a basic overview tonight, and maybe do two of the zodiac signs, okay? And the rest we will continue the rest of July. So July will begin on a sluggish note due to Mercury retrograde, a transit associated with delays, miscommunication, and technology issues. It's best to remain patient until it stations direct on the 23rd. And that might feel like a tall order since it's retrograde in sensitive Cancer. It's too easy to get lost in your feelings when nothing seems to be moving. But hang tight. Once the 23rd comes and goes, everything will be back on track. Then we have the 4th of July, which finds Mars conjunct Uranus at about 2 a.m. Eastern Standard, an exciting but potentially volatile aspect. While this could bring surprises, tempers are easily frayed. Fireworks are fine, but losing your cool, not so much. Okay? Reality checks kick in when Neptune stations retrograde on the 7th. And during this period, which lasts until December 12th, you'll be able to see if your goals are realistic or pipe dreams. This intel will allow you to make smart, practical decisions. Then we have Venus in Virgo on the 9th that puts acts of service front and center in every relationship that you'll have. Taking care of others ensures happiness. This is also a fabulous few weeks to tidy your home and garden. Splurge on cleaning supplies, garden tools, plants, and organization projects products. Venus leaves Virgo on August 6th, and the new moon in Cancer on the 14th is excellent for purchasing new property or starting home renovation projects. Okay, it's also a lovely time to start a family. And I like that part where it says about is excellent for purchasing new property. Mm. If you want to expand your broad, including your brood, including animals, now's the time also. Okay, also for starting that family. The Sun in Leo on the 23rd casts an optimistic, generous glow over the following 4 weeks. It's your best month for leisure activities, creative enterprises, and fun with the kids. Best of all, you can express what's in your heart. And the Sun shifts gears on August 22nd, revisits plans when Saturn's stations retrograde on the 26th of July. How are your projects coming along? I want you guys to think about that. Do you need to revise your goals? Maybe. This period could also test boundaries. You may need to reassert yourself with a few folks. Also, you use this time to complete renovations, address foundational issues in your home, and take responsibility for your errors. Saturn will be direct on December 10th. The month ends with a full moon in Aquarius on the 29th. Emotions could be intense on this day, and intuition could be heightened. So I want you to pay attention to your feelings. They could be revealing. This day could also bring important community news or a reason for celebration. Best of all, the sun is aligned with Jupiter today, making it the luckiest day of the year. So make a wish. All in all, a spectacular grand finale to July. All right. So we're going to do 2 zodiac signs tonight, and the rest will continue the rest of July. For Aries, your ruling planet Mars sparks interest in travel. Many short road trips are possible. If you cannot go away, time spent exploring your neighborhood which should suffice. Domestic matters also need attention. Mercury retrograde illuminates possible water issues or gardening dilemmas. Address these problems as soon as you can. The 4th of July weekend finds your ruling planet Mars making favorable angles to Neptune and Pluto, but also sitting right on top of Uranus. That means there will be fireworks, unexpected events, and potential surprises. So I want you to stay alert for opportunities and possibly drama. An excellent day to begin new renovation projects in the new moon is the new moon on the 14th of July. Circle that day in your calendar and get your supplies ready. Romantic opportunities will arise when the sun changes signs on the 22nd. You'll find 4 weeks for summer loving before it's back to work. Mercury stations direct on the 23rd, which brings ease on the home front for you. You can proceed with projects without too many worry. Okay, the full moon on the 29th is wonderful for a night out with friends and a summer cocktail party in the park, possibly if you can. Yes, please. All right, and the last sign for tonight is Taurus. Summer is here and the living is easy, kind of. Mercury retrograde impedes your communication, making it possible for your foot to end up in your mouth. So forget that foot and mouth disease and try to control yourself better. However, your ruling planet Venus ensures your love life remains intact when it switches to Virgo on the night. So no matter how bad you goof, you can find a way to keep the spark flying with your sweetheart. However, caution is needed on the 13th when Venus squares Uranus, an aspect that spells trouble for love matters. Tempers could flare, leading to misunderstandings, so keep yours in check and the storm could blow over as soon as it starts. And then the new moon on the 14th is ideal for a short trip. A little camping getaway, maybe, might be refreshing. Your home becomes a hive of activity when the sun enters the domestic section of your chart on the 22nd. Pool parties, all day gardening binges, or long nights on the porch with the family makes July a month for memory making. And then you have communication will improve when Mercury stations direct on the 23rd. This also paves the way for more travel. A career highlight arrives with the full moon on the 29th, capping off your month on a very positive note. All right. So that's it for the astrology tonight. And we are going to pull a card. I want you guys to pull a card as well at home. Okay, so hold on 1 second. All right, so let's see. What would we pull a card on tonight? So I want you guys to think of what's the season of the month for you, of July for you. What do you think will be coming up for you this month that you could look forward to for yourself, okay? That you know will be bringing you some good times or good energies or something great for you in terms of work, love life, um, uh, moving, purchasing, all those things, okay? So let's see what I got pulled. All right, now I don't have my regular deck tonight because I accidentally packed it away already. Anyway, so this is the regular Rider Waite, and I got the Emperor. And for me, with the Emperor, um, uh, he's taking charge. He knows what he wants. He great on decision making. He's also wanting to put on his thinking hat kind of a thing and really want to um, make the decisions decisively, think about it before making those decisions, um, trying to do like chess moves, like one step ahead, but each thing that they're doing, and planning it ahead so that if one thing goes wrong, another thing will be able to be in place to make it right, and to counter what if possible things that could go wrong. So they're thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead. And I like that, because July has so many offerings in terms of purchasing, renovation, home renovation, purchasing a new home, all those different things going on. So there's a lot of great decisions to be made, a lot of life decisions to be made, for you going forward. So to me, and that actually relates a lot to me right now because I'm in the middle of doing that kind of a thing. As you can see, I'm packing up. Um, so there's a lot with that that's so accurate that it's amazing that it came out like that. So I want you guys to pull your card and see what it brings for you for the month of July, okay? And we would like to say thank you to all of you in the chat tonight, and for those in the playback. And thank you to our guest, Gus DiZerega, for being with us tonight. It was a pleasure having him. And don't forget to please like, subscribe to us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else in order for us to keep bringing you more of these shows. And we will see you all next week. Take care and many blessings.
Was